Hi, welcome to our lesson for today. We are looking at systems technology and we'll be focusing on hardware. Now in this chapter, we'll be looking at advantages, disadvantages, as well as limitations of our hardware components. Now we know that hardware is a very delicate device, but obviously you have to choose this hardware carefully because of obviously the job that it will provide for you in order to achieve whatever that you want to achieve. Now, whenever you look at these devices, there's a lot of devices that you need to choose from. And for each and every one of us, we need to understand what advantage each device brings and obviously what disadvantage, so that you can be able to choose which one to use and which one not to use. So the first devices we're going to look at, it's scanners as well as digital cameras. Now, scanners are in a way input devices. Now why do we say they are input devices? It's because scanners scan an image into a computer, so in that way they work as an input device. Now what is important about the scanner, it's the resolution of the scanners. So what happens with the resolution is that the resolution of scanners is measured in dots per inch. Now it means that if your document is captured as an image, right, and it's very clear, after it has been scanned, that clearance of that image would be lost somehow, because of obviously this image has to be scanned through and then it has to be projected onto a screen. Now the clearer the image, the better it will look. But if you're scanning an image that is not that really clear, you'll still get an image that is not clear or even worse. Now with using scanners, sometimes you want to scan a document. Now when you scan this document, you want to make changes on this document. Now how is it that you are able to make changes onto this document? Because when you scan an image, when you scan a document, it becomes an image. Now what happens is you need a software that is called an optical character recognition software. Now this software does what? It allows us to make this image into editable or into text document. So it allows you to change this scanned document that was in a form of an image, and then now you are able to edit and make changes onto this document. All right, now advantages as well as disadvantages of scanners. Scanners can be manipulated in terms of you manipulate the image and you are able now to make changes onto this image. Old documents can be kept for longer if they are in a soft copy. Now it simply means that if you had an old book and you really want to save the information on this book, you can scan it and actually store it as a digital format. Images can also be edited in graphics applications. Now whenever you scan an image, it becomes an image and you can enhance the light, you can make changes, you can edit the image and actually make it even nicer than it was. Some disadvantages: scanners or scanned images would obviously lose the quality of the image. That is why, as I was explaining before, that when you scan a document, if the quality of the image is actually poor, then you obviously get even a worse scanned image. And then the next one, it uses lots of space. When you scan an image or when you scan a document, the format that it changes to is actually bigger in terms of size, and hence it would use up a lot of space on your computer. And then the last one, the image quality would depend on the original image. So if you have the best image while it was scanned, and you'd obviously get a good image after it has been scanned. So those are the advantages as well as disadvantages of scanners. Then we're going to look at digital cameras. Now digital cameras, we all know they've been there and they've replaced mostly the older cameras, which we call our film cameras. Now again, your digital cameras still work as an input device, because when you capture an image, that image becomes input. Right. Now also scanners, as well as digital cameras, they focus mostly on the resolution. Now resolution of your digital camera is measured in pixels, which is pixels per inch. Now it is important because it measures the quality of the image. So what this means is the more pixels you have, the higher the resolution of the image. So that is why most people would say I have an 8 megapixel camera. It means that the image quality is actually better than a 5 megapixel camera. So those are the difference in terms of the pixels. Now let's look at advantages as well as disadvantages of cameras. Now the advantage is that your digital cameras can provide still and video images, so you can capture images as well as get videos at the same time. It works as an input device, so whenever you want to capture some information, you can actually take a picture and be able to use that information as input onto your computer. Another one, images can be edited after capturing, so you can edit your images, make them more nicer than it was, make it brighter, you can change it to black and white. You know, you've got all of those options that you can choose in terms of editing. And then the last advantage you're going to look at, storage. Your digital camera can be used as a storage device, so it means the storage on your camera can be reused at a later stage. So you can store your information on a memory card of a digital camera and be able to transfer that onto your computer and reuse it again. Some disadvantages: it can be expensive because you obviously get different types of digital cameras which comes with different resolutions, and obviously the higher the resolution, the better the image. So obviously in terms of the size as well as the pixels, it differs, and that's where the prices would differ. And then it uses a battery, so there's high battery consumption, so it means that you'd obviously have to spend money in terms of buying batteries. And then the memory card can be corrupted. So memory cards, remember, is a storage of your digital camera. That's where your pictures will be stored. So if that is maybe used on different laptops, you're busy transferring images, it can get a virus and it can be corrupted. So those are some of the disadvantages. Even there's more, obviously these are the ones that we're going to focus on. Then moving on to other devices. Now we're going to look at your input devices. Now these input devices, we call them your biometric input devices. Now, if you can see here, we have a picture of this eye that has been scanning, and you can see there's some light there. And here we have a picture of this device with a fingerprint device here, where you can just put your finger and your finger will be scanned. Now, what is this, and when would you use this biometric device? Now, a biometric device actually measures unique biological features of a person. Now, this simply means that my fingerprint would obviously be different from your fingerprint. So that is why this biometric device has to be programmed to read each person's fingerprint. And if it's my fingerprint that is programmed on this device, it can only accept my fingerprint. And if someone else's has been programmed again, it will accept theirs. But for someone who has never been programmed onto that device, then it won't allow them to actually have access to the device. All right, now a few advantages of this biometric device. It scans and recognizes your finger as well as voice and iris. Now, it doesn't mean that it can only work with fingers. That is why here we mention voice as well as iris. So you can measure, or you can actually use any of your biological feature. Remember, it takes any biological features or person's behavior in terms of allowing that device, or allowing entrance into a specific building, or allowing the use of a specific device, even if it's your laptop. It can be used to access control in electronic system buildings. So sometimes you can get people where for them to access a specific room or a specific building, they have to obviously get their hands scanned or eyes scanned so that they can be able to get access to that building. It's more secure than passwords because you don't have to keep on reminding yourself, what was my password, what is the password, but it's more secure because you just have to use your finger, and if you are not there, no one else will be able to gain access. It's difficult to copy, It's not easy where some people would try to forge your fingerprint, because obviously it has to be your fingerprints. Remember, our fingerprints are unique. And then no need to reset password. So remember, if it was password, sometimes you get a password that was tried to be hacked, and then you have to reset, and every single time you have to remember these new passwords. So there's no need for all of that. Then a few disadvantages of biometric devices. If your finger is cut, if your eye is affected, or your voice changes, it means you will not get access to your room or access to your device. They are expensive, so you have to be willing to pay in order to use this biometric device. It needs good housing as well as lighting. Means the actual device where this is built, it has to be in a good condition, and it has to be a better hardware, or a good hardware that can handle this feature. It takes longer to verify, so it's not as easy as just quickly typing your password. If you have to scan, you have to put your finger just for a few seconds, and then it will eventually verify, depending on what is it that is scanning. Sometimes if you scan your iris, it has to take a few seconds, and then it will recognize. Remember, it has to verify the scanning of your finger or of your eye and compare it to what it has already on the system. Right, then we're going to look at some PDAs as well as smartphones and tablets. Now these are some of the input devices that we also have, but now why would you say an PDA would have this input device? Now PDAs, they use a pen, which we call a stylus, or they also have a keyboard. Now advantages of having a PDA: you can get internet, and you can be able to organize by getting your calendar and be able to contain telephone numbers as well as contact details. Few advantages is that it has a poor battery life. Right, another device is a smartphone. Now smartphone uses more types of input, for example voice as input, SMS, email, as well as instant messaging. Now some advantages of smartphones: you get a GPS, you get PDA features, you get a camera, and you can be able to play music in that one device. Then some disadvantages: it can be small, and you can get internet contract where you have to pay a fee in order for you to get internet access. So those are some of the advantages as well as disadvantages of a smartphone. Then we're going to look at tablets. Now tablet PCs, they use a digital pen as well as a touch screen, right? Now what happens is that it converts handwritten, meaning your handwriting, handwritten characters, they are converted, and then they actually be read as text into that device. So your handwriting will be converted into characters that can be processed to your normal text that you would get on a PC. Now you can also be able to add a keyboard, which is an extra if you don't want to use the touch screen on your tablet. And then you have some advantages here. It can store your handwritten notes as well as art, and it also allows wireless internet connection. Disadvantages: can be expensive. The text conversion doesn't always work. So sometimes your text cannot be recognized, and then it's not converted to characters that can be processed. So those are some of the things that you need to really take note whenever you're using a tablet. Then the last point that I want us to look at is data collection devices. They are devices that allow us to collect data. Now these data collection devices can include these three devices that I've explained, which is, just to go back quickly, your PDAs, your smartphones, right, your tablets. So now these three devices are actually somehow data collection devices, because you are able to collect data using those devices. Now, other than those devices, you also get scanners, and these devices, when they scan an image, they act as a data collection because they collect devices. Now, sometimes these devices need to send this data over the internet. Now, after this data has been collected, the data will then be sent over the internet in order for this data to be verified. Now, let's look at our next input devices. Now, input devices, obviously, they differ. Now we have your terminals. Now there's two examples of these terminals. We have a POS and then we have ATMs. Let me just activate my pen there. Right. Now POS are basically your point of sale systems, and then your ATMs, you obviously know your ATMs where you withdraw your money, auto teller machines. Now these machines are linked onto a host server. Now what happens is, when this machine is linked into this server, they actually allow these transactions to happen. Why? Because there is verification that is needed. Now, in order for this to happen, you need to put in a PIN so that they can identify if it's actually the real person using that card for verification, or is actually the owner of the card. Now let's first look at your ATMs. Your ATMs, they provide banking services. Now, instead of having to go to the bank every single time, you can just use an ATM. Now what happens is, your ATMs are convenient, they save time, and they are secure, and they're available for 24 hours. Yes, they might not be all that secure, but if they are in an area where there's security, then you can say they are secure. Now, sometimes when you use different types of ATMs, you can get additional costs. Let's say, for example, if you're banking with another bank and you use your card from another bank into, maybe let's say you're banking with FNB and you withdraw from Absa, then it obviously means that you would get additional costs with that transaction. And sometimes if you forget your PIN, or if your PIN is forgotten, you can't it won't allow you to process that transaction, so it means that you won't be able to use your card. And then another disadvantage would be that fraudsters can, even when you have your card, they can always find a way to get your data, where we get cloning, where they clone your card, or maybe if you lose your card, and then they can be able to get some of the information. But obviously they can do that in a lot of ways. So those are some of the problems that you can get with your ATMs. Then another terminal that we spoke of, it's your POS. Now this POS system will provide payment options, stock update, and return and service of goods. So this means that at a POS, you are able to pay for your goods, and you are able to get stock updates for maybe a company or a factory, and they're able to accept returns, and they're able to obviously provide service of goods. Now, what happens with these POS? The advantage is that they provide accurate prices. So if you are at a teller and they are scanning your item, they would obviously have to scan the item, and the system will recognize the item, and they will provide the accurate price. And then they speed up the and check out process. Now they would obviously allow you to be able to check and speed up that process in terms of checking your goods. And then they also keep record of products, and stock is always up to date. So these are some of the advantages that your POS systems would provide. Now, some disadvantages: you can be asked to pay a monthly cost fee, which we have to obviously pay in order to have your system maintained on the internet. And then the hardware can be expensive sometimes, and then internet connection can sometimes be interrupted. So sometimes you get to a shop where you have to buy, and they can't sell if you don't have cash, because their POS system is out of service because there's no internet connection. So those are some of the other advantages as well as disadvantages of terminals. Then we move on to touch screens. Now, touch screens are for user interaction with device by touching. So this allows you as a user to interact with this device by actually physically touching this device. They allow more screen size. Now, why are we saying they allow more screen size? If you have a touch screen, it means that the whole screen is actually viewable, and it means you are able to be able to see everything on the screen. But if they had to have a keyboard on that device, it means the screen would actually be smaller. They are easy to use and can use keyboards as well. Or you can be able to connect devices where you just connect an external keyboard and be able to use your touchscreen device. Disadvantages: they can be sensitive, because you obviously know that we sometimes sweat, and you can be using your sweaty hands on the screen, and then obviously it can cause some more damage on the screen where it becomes wet and then it's not responding. It can take longer to use or get used to, because sometimes not everyone would be able to know how to, use this touchscreen device. So it takes a bit of time for you to get used to it, where you have to tap, sometimes you have to flip, depending on the device. It can be more expensive. Scratches or marks can actually damage the screen. So if there's some scratches or marks on your screen, can actually cause damage onto this device. Then moving on to other devices, some other alternative input devices that we don't really use that often sometimes. These alternative devices can include obviously your keyboard, which I'm not going to discuss in much detail because you obviously know them, and then optical keyboards, stylus, joystick, etc. So these are other devices that can also be used as input devices. Now, your optical keyboard, what makes it obviously different from a normal keyboard is that it projects an LED keyboard on a flat surface. So it's actually a device that can project an LED keyboard on a flat surface other than your normal keyboard. Then a joystick is actually a gaming device that can be moved to different directions. All right, so this joystick would obviously be moved and in a way of which you use a mouse, but obviously it's not a mouse, so it can act as a mouse pointer. Then the last one is a stylus, which is a special pen that is used for touching as well as pointing on a touch screen device. So your stylus pen would obviously be useful on touch screens, but if your screen is not a touch screen, then you won't be able to use this stylus device. All right, and that is it for our lesson today. Thank you for joining us.